Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, Counter-Spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve. Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet.
Gunsmoke. The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
A very special day on this program each and every year. As you know, for the longest time, we did a very special 1 hour on the VJ Day special. And the good part about the fact that we no longer have to format this program for our radio stations that we used to have, we had very specific things that we had to do, and we could only do things in 20-minute blocks. And we had to include commercial time for the network and commercial time for the stations and news time. So we only had 40 minutes in each hour. The good part about this is that I'm able to float things quite a bit more. We are going to have 2 episodes that are not related to VJ Day today, which will be Mystery in the Air, starring Peter Lorre, and Have Gun Will Travel, starring John Dehner as Paladin. And I'm including those 2 for specific reasons. We played part 1 of the Have Gun Will Travel last Wednesday, and we had the Mystery in the Air because it is a short series, summer series that Peter Lorre did, and it's only his only starring roles in radio, and I think he did such an outstanding job. But we're also going to do something we didn't used to do. We're going to take a look at this date in history, but we'll also bring you the announcements from the run-up and all that. HV Kaltenborn talking about it, reactions from people all across the nation, and of course Norman Corwin's 14 August. Which was written on very, very short notice after the detonation of the bombs and the surrender of Japan. That's all coming up on this Wednesday, and you know what that means. This is the 14th day of August, 227th day of the year, 139 days remaining. International forces entered Beijing on this date in 1900 in an effort to suppress the anti-foreign uprising known as the Boxer Rebellion. It was on this date in 1935 the Social Security Act became law.
If the Senate and the House of Representatives had done nothing more than pass this Social Security Act, the session would be regarded as historic for all time.
President Roosevelt on the passing of Social Security back in 1935. It was on this date 79 years ago today, Japan surrendered to the U.S., ending World War II.
At exactly 10 seconds after 7:35 this morning, August 14th, from London, Swiss radio has announced that Japan has accepted the Allied note. This is a Reuters dispatch from London. The Swiss radio has announced that Japan has accepted the Allied note. There you have confirmation from the Swiss radio of acceptance by Japan of the Allied note requesting surrender on the terms with which we are already all familiar. And there was the historic moment in this country, the conclusion of the war in the Pacific. We read that flash to you at 10 seconds after 7:35, just as it came off the Reuters news printer from London.
And we'll have more audio from that date in just a few minutes. On this date in 1947, Pakistan became independent of British rule. 1951, newspaper publisher William Randolph Hearst died in Beverly Hills, California. In 1995, Shannon Faulkner made history. She became the first female cadet at the Citadel, the State Military College of South Carolina. In 1997, Timothy McVeigh sentenced to death for the Oklahoma City bombing. In 2003, the largest blackout in American history hit the Northeast.
It's creepy. I'm getting a flashback from September 11th. I don't like this.
Almost 2 years after the September 11 attacks, New Yorkers uneasy when the lights went out. Power outage through parts of the Northeast and Midwestern U.S., most parts of the Canadian province of Ontario on this date. Beginning just after 4:10 in the afternoon, most places restored power by midnight. After white nationalists marched in Charlottesville, Virginia, President Trump condemning white supremacist groups and vowed to fight for the future of the American youth.
We will spare no resource in fighting so that every American child can grow up free from violence and fear.
And still to this day, people think he supports white supremacists. Go figure. Let's look at people who passed on this date. They include rock singer Johnny Burnett, actor Oscar Levant, Dorothy Stratton, the actress and model, Enzo Ferrari, the car maker, Judge John Sirica, and Tony Williams of the Platters. Birthdays on this date include Doc Holliday, the gambler gunfighter, David Crosby, the guitarist and songwriter, and pro wrestler Hot Stuff, Eddie Gilbert, all born on this date in history.
Hi, this is Jeff Foxworthy. It is now time for the birthday announcements. The following people are now officially older than dirt.
Turning 78 years old today, Steve Martin.
1978.
Now when he was a young man, he never thought he'd see people stand in line to see the boy king. How'd you get so funky? Did you do the monkey?
Born in Arizona, moved to Babylonia.
Steve Martin, one of those wild and crazy guys. Now he's just happy at 78 playing bluegrass. Steve Martin's 78 today. The surviving half of the group Seals and Crofts, 86 today. Actress Susan St. James is 78. Novelist Danielle Steele is 77. Former WWF champion, actually I think at that time it was WWF champion, Bob Backlund, 75 years old, still alive, still in a remarkable shape. He's a Looney Tunes. Bob Backlund, 75. Cartoonist Gary Larson is 74. Computer game author Cliff Johnson is 54. NASCAR driver Rusty Wallace, 67 today. Actress Marcia Gay Harden is 65. Magic Johnson, also 65 today. Soprano Sarah Brightman, 64. The real Cindy Brady, Susan Olsen, is 63. Another pro wrestler, Kofi Kingston, in the WWE, 43 today, still active. Actress Mila Kunis is 41. And the delightful Halle Berry turns 58 today.
These are my husband's drawings right here. Lawrence, my husband, he got himself electrocuted over there in Jackson.
From the 2002 motion picture Monster Ball, she won a Best Actress Oscar, the first black woman to win a Best Actress Oscar for playing the widow of a death row inmate in Monster Ball. Halle Berry, 58 today. Those just a few of the people who celebrate this 14th day of August as their birthday, and if this is your birthday...
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
All right, we're going to go back with a very loosey-goosey show today. Our annual look at this date 79 years ago, VJ Day, August 14th, 1945, the end of World War II. That's coming up next here on this Wednesday, Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Congress is poised to pass a bill to keep AM radio in cars, but time is running out. 82 million Americans risk losing the news, sports, talk, traffic, and vital emergency information they rely on. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to pass this bill now.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We're going to take you to a mutual line recording of this date 79 years ago, very early in the morning. of August 14th, 1945, as rumors were trickling out about the possible surrender of Japan that would end World War II.
From the Mutual Newsroom in New York, Tokyo Radio says acceptance of Potsdam Proclamation coming soon. I repeat, Tokyo Radio says acceptance of Potsdam Proclamation coming soon. One moment, please. Please, I repeat this bulletin. Tokyo Radio says acceptance of Potsdam Proclamation coming soon. A bulletin from San Francisco. Tokyo Radio said today that an imperial message accepting the Potsdam Proclamation would be forthcoming soon. Repeating that bulletin from San Francisco, Tokyo Radio said today that an imperial message accepting the Potsdam Proclamation would be forthcoming soon. For the news, listen to your Mutual station. From the Mutual Newsroom in New York, San Francisco, the International News Service, FCC quotes Domai saying Japan accepts Allied terms. Repeating this bulletin, dated San Francisco, the Federal Communication Commission quotes Domai saying Japan accepts Allied terms. This is not official. I repeat, this is not official. This is from the Tokyo Radio.
Hold it.
Just one moment, please. We're standing by in the Mutual Newsroom. Just one moment, please. From the OWI, the Japanese government has accepted the Allied surrender formula embodied in the note dispatched to Tokyo by the United States. The Tokyo Domai Agency said today in a wireless dispatch recorded by the Federal Communications Commission. We have another bulletin here. Japan surrenders. Japan surrenders. Now repeating the entire bulletin, the Japanese government has accepted the Allied surrender formula embodied in the note dispatched to Tokyo by the United States. The Tokyo Domai Agency said to recorded by the Federal Communications Commission. This is not official. We're awaiting confirmation from Washington. This is not official. For the news, listen to your Mutual station.
Swing bands make him frown. He doesn't get his from boogie-woogie licks.
Good morning, everyone. This is Don Elder speaking from atop the marquee of the United Artists Theater here in the heart of Chicago's Loop District. The streets are pretty well filled with people by now, but as yet we've seen very little boisterous noise-making or celebration. When we came down on the Loop this morning at about 4:30, the weather had already taken a hand in stopping the crowds from gathering. It was raining buckets, and with the exception of a few civilians and servicemen huddled under theater marquees and in doorways, about the only people down on the streets were policemen. Well, now that situation has changed. It stopped raining and quite a crowd has gathered. Some of them are listening to the news on radio scattered throughout the Loop. Quite a few are merely on their way to work. And as could be expected, quite a few school children are also downtown to get a look-see at just what's happening. Since early this morning, we've watched cameramen and newsreel photographers getting a cross-section view of Chicago on this day of days. One rather persistent photographer stood out in the middle of Randolph Street for a very dangerous 3 or 4 minutes, snapping pictures of passers-by and Chicagoans wandering the loop just looking for excitement to happen. Very few windows have been broken down here, but some stores are taking no chances anyway. I noticed the old Heidelberg down here a few doors boarded up their windows with big V for Victory signs. We talked to a policeman before who told us that up until now the police have had very little to do in the line of quelling disturbances. He adds, incidentally, that that's all right with him. By the way, it would seem that even Chicago's finest have their troubles. At least when I happened to overhear one of the uniformed policemen talking on a pay telephone a few minutes ago, he was trying to explain frantically to his wife that he was actually down here in the loop on business. From what I couldn't help overhearing, she obviously didn't believe there was anything important enough to get her husband out of bed at about 2 o'clock in the morning, at least nothing in the line of duty. Just recently, all of Chicago's taverns have been ordered closed for a 24-hour period by the police department, while about half of Chicago's restaurants already have closed voluntarily. And before the day is over, most of the Chicagoans who eat out will have a pretty hard time finding a place to get a snack. Department stores still are waiting for the official word before closing, and banks here will remain open until today is declared a legal holiday, if it is. As I speak to you from Chicago's Loop this morning, you can probably hear the roar of traffic down below us and perhaps the rumble of a few passing streetcars. Incidentally, a few of those streetcars have windows broken early this morning in the first excitement of Radio Tokyo's announcement. But since then, as I mentioned, there has been very little violence. Newsboys down on the street are making more money today than they've made in a long, long time. One little fellow told us as we bought a paper, "You know what, mister? That fellow there says he has a boy out in the Pacific. You know what else? He gave me $1 for one paper." But in general, it seems Chicagoans are taking the whole thing very calmly and coolly. One might almost say with a feeling of skepticism. They aren't going to be caught by another false peace flash, you can be sure of that. We talked to several people on the street before going on the air, and that feeling is just about the same. Just before going on the air here, I was down on the street sampling reaction and the general temper of Chicago's Loop. I noticed a T5 standing in front of the theater. Quite obviously, he'd seen plenty of action, for on his sleeve were 5 overseas bars, in other words, 3 years. In addition, he wore 3 campaign stars, and they happened to stand for Makin, Saipan, and Okinawa. When I asked him his name, he said, "Oh, that isn't important. Just say I'm a member of the Fightin' 69. But I can sure imagine how happy the old gang is out there on Okinawa today. And now this is Don Elder switching you to NBC in Denver.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're monitoring the Columbia Network, and they are in New York City at their World News Service. But meanwhile, since they are not taking us to London, England, here we go.
The Japanese have accepted our terms fully. That is the word we have just received from the White House in Washington, and I didn't expect to hear a celebration here.
You've heard it, ladies and gentlemen, and we're here in the Time Star newsroom with a traveling microphone. The war is over. The Japanese have surrendered. The victory has been won. It's official from the White House. You just heard Bob Trout. President Harry Truman has announced the end of the war. The Japanese have accepted our conditioned reply to their surrender offer. They will lay down their arms. There it is, the news you've been waiting for. It's over, all over. For some neighbors of yours and mine, the war ended long ago when the messenger arrived with the telegram saying killed in action or died of wounds. Let's have a thought to that tonight. The sounds of the guns have been stilled. This is August the 14th, the day to remember. The word from Washington that President Truman has announced the acceptance of the Japanese surrender terms. This is the day you wondered about on September 1st, 1939, when the voice of Adolf Hitler swept upon the ears of the world to announce the Nazi attack on Poland. This is the day you wondered about on December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor. And then you said, this is it. And whether you'd fancied yourself an isolationist or an internationalist, you knew that that was it. You wondered about your own loved ones back there December 7th, 41. You wondered whether they would survive it. Well, many of the boys will come marching home, and others will lie beneath the white crosses and stars in far places. Places whose names we'd never heard before that Pearl Harbor day. And so now the war is over. The victory is won. The American people have a new litany of names which have been consecrated by American blood. The blood of boys and men from Cincinnati and Covington, Newport, Lebanon, Ohio, Greenville, Dayton and Connersville, Indiana, and Lawrenceburg. A litany which tells of far places and calls up the vision of beach landings in an inferno of fire and steel. We can hear the whistles in downtown Cincinnati. They're breaking loose because this is it. This is it, friends. Now it's all over in the Pacific, over in Europe. It's over, friends, save for the white crosses and the memory of those place names you'd never heard of before this war started. The job has been done in the Western world and on the land and seas of the Orient, and let's not forget it. We're traveling alongside our news wire now. As a matter of fact, if we can get to the window, maybe we don't have to get there. You can hear the bells and the whistles in downtown Cincinnati. I don't know whether they cut in above the news wire ticking, but Mr. Truman made the announcement that it's over at a press conference. He read a statement which said, "I deem this reply a full acceptance of the Potsdam Declaration, which specified the unconditional surrender of Japan. In the reply, there is no qualification." That's the way President Truman said it. Let me see if I can get to a window. You can hear the bells and the whistles out there. Now Cincinnati can really celebrate. The thing is over and Johnny is going to come marching home. Friends, possibly Columbia Broadcasting System has got something that I haven't got down here on my tickers, so we take you to CBS.
This is Columbia's news headquarters in New York. Our last great enemy is defeated. The Second World War is at an end.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Christ Church wishes to announce it will hold special VJ Day services at 8 p.m. tonight and 12:10 tomorrow afternoon. We'll repeat that. Christ Church wishes to announce it will hold special VJ Day services at 8 p.m. tonight and 12:10 tomorrow afternoon.
The town is just getting into the depth of the celebration about now, I believe, and President Truman will later on this evening make a formal declaration of the peace treaty with Japan.
Yeah, it was 6 o'clock and we heard the whistles blow and all sorts of things seemed to be going on all at one time. And so we decided that that was the end of the war, and it was. So we drove around the block and we went over to Fountain Square, and there was tons of paper, I guess not tons, anyhow, a few wastebaskets full of paper being thrown out from the crew tower. It's pretty thrilling, I think.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking to you from the roof of the Time Star building in downtown Cincinnati. Can you hear those whistles? Can you hear those bells? Cincinnati is celebrating. We thought we'd let you hear what the old hometown is doing. Just listen to the noise. Even up here at 8th and Broadway, which is a little off the main drag in Cincinnati, the paper and the confetti is blowing around, and somebody must have tied down the whistle of a train, because one of the most infernal rackets is being brewed over in the middle part of the city, and we can hear it up here at the Time Star just as though it was being made downstairs. For now, that's the story from the Time Star.
I take you to NBC Mobile Unit.
This is the NBC Mobile Unit in the heart, center, and the pulsing focus of a joyous nation on Times Square in New York City. Ben Brower reporting as I literally stand tiptoe, sticking my head outside the silver-gray terratop of the NBC Mobile Unit and look uptown over a foaming, seething, writhing mass of faces, lifted joyfully and buoyantly and gloriously happy at the final conclusion of a desperate war which has seen its closing days in a desperate day or 3 or 4 of anxiety, turmoil, anticipation, doubt, fear, and being cast down. Are these people happy? That's the only word to express it. Are you happy? And all I need to do is turn my NBC microphone down over these folks here and to see this wave of smiles, confetti, streamers, banners, bells, jingles, flags, horns, and a joyous, buoyant, glorious look on everybody's face. If I can calm down for just a minute, I'd like to take this scene apart to see that here we have a combination of every type and person in the country represented by these people here. I can see by the looks on the faces that there's a person from out of town, from the West Coast, from Kansas, from Miami, from Oakland, California. There's a serviceman from the, oh, they won't let me talk. The reason reason for that is that a daring Marine has just leaped upon a representation of the picture of the flag being planted on the peak of Mount Suribachi in Iwo Jima and has raised a little but gloriously defiant American flag. And in victory, this little piece of bunting is going up to the top of the Iwo Jima. And now here's a sailor on the other side of this lamppost, which says Times Square Broadway, and he has been kissed both by the grape and by a beautiful girl, because he climbed up that lamppost about 25, 30 feet high. Now he's in his own little crow's nest here in the heart of Manhattan, and he's waving a happy and joyous hello to everyone below him. He's got a rose stuck in his little pocket over his left breast, just above his campaign ribbons, and he's waving his hat happily in the air. Up above, I see nothing but a sea, a rolling mass of faces conspicuously marked by the white headgear of Navy boys. And down right here close to us, a quick glance at the massing, milling crowd would indicate that there's approximately 20% of servicemen. I think that's a fair estimate. They have been drawn to this, the focus and heart of New York City, and which expresses at this moment the pent-up jubilation and joy and relief after 4 years of war. Oh, he's made it! The sailor boy got to the very top of the lamppost and then reached the most precarious peak, and he's sitting right now on a representation of the seal of the city of New York. And he doesn't care if anybody knows it. Joy, glamour, beauty, excitement, and overall an expression of tremendous relief. I see also mixed in the crowd those who are silent, mostly older people. Many of them perhaps people who will carry the memory of a loved one who hasn't returned, whose sacrifice is continuous. I see many people who are standing mouth agape. The thing is so overwhelming that they can't express it in their own jubilation and just much others. There's a little gray-haired lady with a happy smile, somewhat toothless, but all over her face, and I see that she's got a service button with 2 stars on it. Our congratulations and joy to you, madam. And here's a little girl, a bobby socker if ever I saw one, and she's kissing a sailor right next to her. The sailor seems to be having the most of it. There's a girl with brimming black eyes, and she is smiling and kissing a soldier. The Army has taken over for a moment here. And now the policemen, Mayor LaGuardia's representatives here, in a very kindly and understanding and sympathetic way, are trying to keep the crowd back who are pressing around this lamppost. And now the Marine is cast. A Marine's gone up to challenge the Navy man up there. This, and ladies and gentlemen, is NBC's description from Times Square of a part of the VJ celebration in New York City. Ben Grau speaking and returning to the NBC newsroom in New York.
Some of the sounds of this day 79 years ago, August 14th, 1945, VJ Day, the end of World War II. We'll hear more of those sounds in just a moment when Classic Radio Theater continues.
You can have vegetables, lots of them, on your table next winter. You can have your own fresh vegetables on your table this summer if you have your own Victory Garden. Yes, there's no restriction on home canning and home processing of vegetables and garden fruits and berries. Plan your Victory Garden now. Get your garden plot lined up. Get the advice of a garden expert if you need it, and be prepared to grow your own for victory. Join a garden club or community garden movement, or share a garden with your neighbor. You can help win the battle of food production. You can help our fighting men get the food they need. You can help save the vital metals used in commercial canning if you grow your own Victory Garden in 1943. For further information, write to Victory Gardens, Washington, D.C. Victory Gardens, Washington, D.C.
Victory Gardens was just one way that America scrimped and saved so that the war could be prosecuted. I've got one more piece here of audience reaction to what happened on this date back in 1945, 79 years ago today. This is the live feed that CBS did from the streets of Hollywood.
Ladies and gentlemen, if it's color you want, Hollywood has got it. This is Jimmy Matthews reporting from in front of the CBS Playhouse in Hollywood, just off the corner of Hollywood and Vine. And believe me, you can hear the horns, the traffic in the background. Hollywood is absolutely going mad. There's nothing, traffic hasn't moved out in front of our Playhouse here for the last 5 minutes. We're crowded with soldiers, sailors, civilians. Everybody is out here. And right here at my side is a representative of our armed forces, a man in the uniform of the United States Navy. How do you do? What's your name?
Rip Van Runkle.
How do you do, Brooke? What's your name? What's your, let me see on your sleeve?
I'm a Specialist X.
That's
Specialist
a
radio
X.
man, yeah.
Radio man.
Well, radio service.
And what are your immediate plans? I know you must have some.
I want to get back in a nice tweed suit, very loud with a loud tie.
That's a wonderful ambition. I don't blame you a bit. And now let's move our microphone a little bit around here. And now here's another member of our armed forces, a soldier. What's your name?
Private Mort Werner.
Private Mort Werner. Mort, what are your plans?
Well, just as soon as I can, I'd like to get back in one of those tweed suits and go after one of those radio announcing jobs like you have.
Oh, you like this radio announcing job? Well, one of our reporters, Dave Bale, has been up at the corner of Hollywood and Vine, where our microphone won't quite reach, and seen some of the color up there. Dave, what have you got to report?
Well, it's New Year's Eve at Hollywood and Vine, as you can tell by the noise. A bright sunlit afternoon at 5:24 in the afternoon. And with me I brought back a gentleman in an Australian uniform. Will you tell us your name, sir?
Sid Hanneman.
Sid Hanneman, what part of Australia are you from?
Come from Sydney.
And what are you doing over here in this country?
Over here on ferrying duties.
On ferrying duties?
Well, we think we don't have to give extra day to you.
Any sentiments you'd like to express on the news today?
I think it's great that we're here today. We like it very much. We think we're very lucky to be here today. We think it's a great day.
Fine. Well, I know all of us do. Well, let's see. We've had an Australian, we've had a soldier and a sailor, and right back here through the crowd I see a Marine. Come on up here, young man. What's your name?
Private Duke Stoner.
Where's your home, Duke?
Iowa City, Iowa.
Iowa City. Well, you're right among a lot of Iowans out here in California. Any of your relatives living out here?
Not to the best of my knowledge, except a few spare wives.
I see. And where are you stationed?
Camp Pendleton.
Camp Pendleton. What are you going to do when you get out of the service?
Oh, what a life I'm going to lead.
What a life you're going to lead. Oh, I'll bet, and lots of luck to you.
Dave, look
Thanks,
over
Duke.
here. There's a young Canadian soldier, much bedecked with lipstick.
I am not a soldier. Please.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
All right, ask me a question.
Well, what are you, sir?
I'm an airman.
An airman?
Oh, there's a difference. Yes, indeed.
Thank you for telling us.
And much bedecked with lipstick, much celebration in the offing, I
Very
see.
fancy red scarf.
I didn't know the red scarf was there. We all here now. I didn't know the red scarf was there. Somebody draped it around me, but I love the kissing, and I'm looking for lipstick impressions as souvenirs to the place.
Wonderful idea.
I'm doing very well. There's more girls here are willing to kiss promiscuously.
Hollywood and Vine is a place to get
kissed
Spanish
promiscuously.
Civil War men. Well, right back here, sir. What are your sentiments on this day?
I was in 17.
It's now that the Japs have given up, it were time that Franco gave up, too, and gave freedom to Spanish people.
Well, thank you very much, sir. We're getting sentiments from all sides here.
Dave, did you see that car that just went by? About 30 people piled on top of a convertible just a few minutes ago.
Well, we're just about in time to pick up a band that's coming up the street here. Nice fat parade.
Marching up the street.
Right, but I know that our CBS reporter in San Francisco, Don Mosley, is waiting. So this has been Dave Bale and Jimmy Matthews reporting from in front of the CBS Playhouse at Hollywood and Vine in the heart of the nation's film capital. We take you now to San Francisco. Don Mosley reporting.
We don't have that report, but what we do have is commentary from one of the best-known radio commentators of the day, HV Kaltenborn.
And now we are going to bring you a special commentary on this news by Mr. HV Kaltenborn, speaking from the NBC newsroom in New York. Mr. Kaltenborn.
You can say it with emphasis, for it's ringing in millions of hearts all over the world tonight. That glad, glad news that we've been waiting for years. And here it is. Sometimes it hardly seems for a moment that it can be true. We've become so immersed in war. We have lived the war so completely, so intensely, that this transition from one moment to the next into peace seems almost impossible to realize. And yet, we know it's true. We know that the President of the United States has told us that it was true. And here is what he said. The words deserve repeating again and again. I have received this afternoon a message from the Japanese government in reply to the message forwarded to that government on August 11th. I deem this reply a full acceptance of the Potsdam Declaration, which specifies the unconditional surrender of Japan. In the reply, there is no qualification. Arrangements are now being made for the formal signing of surrender terms at the earliest possible moment. General Douglas MacArthur has been appointed the Supreme Allied Commander to receive the Japanese surrender. Great Britain, Russia, and China will be represented by high-ranking officers. Meantime, the Allied armed forces have been ordered to suspend offensive action. The proclamation of VJ Day must wait upon the formal signing of the surrender terms by Japan. Following is the Japanese government's message accepting our terms. Communication of the Japanese government of August 14, 1945, addressed to the governments of the United States, Great Britain, the Soviet Union, and China, with reference to the Japanese government's note of August 10th regarding their acceptance of the provisions of the Potsdam Declaration, and the reply of the governments of the United States, Great Britain, the Soviet Union, and China, sent by American Secretary of State James F. Burns under the date of August 11, the Japanese government have the honor to communicate to the government of the four powers as follows. 1. His Majesty the Emperor has issued an imperial rescript regarding Japan's acceptance of the provisions of the Potsdam Declaration. 2. His Majesty the Emperor is prepared to authorize and ensure the signature by his government and the Imperial General Headquarters of the necessary terms for carrying out the provisions of the Potsdam Declaration. His Majesty is also prepared to issue his commands to all the military, naval, and air authorities of Japan and all the forces under their control, wherever located, to cease active operations, to surrender arms, and to issue such other orders as may be required by the Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces for the execution of the above-mentioned terms. Nothing could be more complete, more absolute, more devoid of the slightest qualification. The one point of doubt is the text of the rescript to which the Emperor refers in the first point of his declaration. He says that he has issued an imperial rescript regarding Japan's acceptance of the provisions of the Potsdam Declaration. It is quite possible that that is the document which he will read over the radio to the Japanese people at 11 o'clock Eastern wartime, and of which NBC will give you a full report. And so we come to the close, or near the close, of a momentous day. And what a curious day it's been in the history of the war. Those of us who followed the press and radio bulletins since the day began have lived in a twilight zone between war and peace. Not long after midnight, Domei, the official Japanese news agency, told the world that Japan had surrendered. When radio's instantaneous transmission carried that news to the 48 states, the celebrations began. They became riotous in many cities as the morning wore on. But there was no more news. Early reports that the surrender note had reached Switzerland were denied. For hours, there was a feeling of frustration. Then, in mid-afternoon, came a broadcast from NBC's Max Jordan, which electrified those who heard it. Scoring one of the big beats of the war, Jordan gave us the first real news of the day. The Japanese note had reached Bern, he said, and would be at the White House in 2 more hours. It accepted our surrender demand in principle, and those who knew what the note contained believed the war was over. In a later broadcast, Jordan revealed that a fairly lengthy note had been compressed into 160 Swiss code words, which RCA transmitted from Switzerland in just 12 minutes. The note reached the State Department at 6:04 p.m. Eastern Wartime. The White House had already learned its general contents from Leland Harrison, our minister to Switzerland, and at 7 o'clock tonight, the news reporters who had been waiting for days around the White House were called into the president's office, and the president gave them the momentous news. He gave them more news at the same time. He told them that something like 5 million American men now in the armed forces will be released to civilian life within the next 12 to 18 months. The Board of War Production told us that all labor controls are off at once, so that labor is once again a free agent to seek whatever market suits it.
The thoughts of HV Kaltenborn after the official announcement came through that Japan had surrendered. Let's go back 24 hours to the evening commentary by a different commentator, Gabriel Heater, and his thoughts on the eve of what would end up being VJ Day. This is from August 13th, 1945.
And now, Gabriel Heater.
Good evening, everyone. If you hear nothing by midnight Washington time tonight, you'll hear nothing official until after 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. There's a feeling in Washington Japan's delay indicates a dramatic disagreement inside her own government. And that may delay a final reply for several days. Even civil war in Japan isn't ruled out as a possibility now. Their people know nothing even now regarding their surrender offer. Their latest propaganda line talks of more war and the likelihood of American invasion. And the war is on, very much on. There's no evidence to show that the people are being prepared for surrender. We know tonight they lied when they said they were delayed by the fact that our counter-proposal only arrived in Tokyo early today. Swiss authorities say they had the Jap acknowledgement 24 hours before that. Their news reports reveal several conferences between Togo and the Emperor. So he and other army leaders may be unwilling to go along in any surrender arrangement. The Swiss Foreign Office has made arrangements to remain on duty all night tonight in anticipation of some reply. If it comes, will it be a final reply or another counter-offer? Or will it reveal some dramatic surprise inside Japan? The Emperor's abdication, perhaps, to avoid the personal humiliation of surrender. Will the reply reveal a new government in Japan? A government whose purpose would be more delay. You remember all the changes before Pearl Harbor. China's ambassador seems confident of big news soon. He ought to know how the Jap mind would work under these circumstances. He's a well-informed man. I believe he knows. At least he has every right to know what to expect. He seems confident. There are no facts, however, nothing but mysterious silence. Do they need time in Tokyo to swallow the cruel, arrogant pride? There's little doubt of it. This will be a cup of bitter tea. Picture anybody whose job it may have been to kneel today in the Emperor's presence and say, Holy One, Your Majesty, you'll have to sign a document admitting complete defeat and accepting unconditional surrender. You'll have to do this even when your armies are intact, 4 million strong. You'll have to do all this even before an enemy soldier has landed on your shores. You'll have to agree to place yourself under a supreme allied commander who will be the real ruler of Japan. And after all that, after you've carried out his orders, you'll have to wait for the people of Japan to say whether or not you're to be continued. Even when we're back once more an obscure, disarmed, and dismantled group of islands without pomp or power. When you realize 9 persons in 10 in Japan would hardly dare look up with the Emperor passing by. When you consider how much he represents God to millions. When you realize how completely all of Japan's national life is tied up with this one man who is now virtually forced to offer himself up to do as we say and carry out our command, and admit everything he represents in power, natural and supernatural, has failed to save Japan. You'll agree, I'm sure, carrying that news to him was quite a mission.
News commentator Gabriel Heater from the day before this date, 79 years ago, August 13th, 1945. We'll talk more about... Actually, we're not going to talk more about this because we're going to hear the amazing, exquisite words of Norman Corwin, recited by Orson Welles, 14 August. That will be next on Classic Radio Theater.
Extra, extra paper. Get your paper here.
Yeah, it says here in the paper folks are shouting for sugar. If you ask me, they ought to give it to us. No sense of the sugar rationing anyway.
Yeah, a lot of foolishness. Why, they say the warehouses are full of it.
Yeah, I guess those fellas down in Washington can't think of anything better to do. If you want to know what I think, this sugar rationing business is all the bunk.
Have you heard that kind of talk? Don't be misled by it. The truth is that although sugar imports have improved somewhat in the last several months, ship sinkings off our Atlantic coast have increased. Remember this. The next time you hear someone say that sugar rationing is unnecessary. A wise person does not spend his entire check on the day he gets paid. A wise nation does not eat up its reserve stocks in wartime. It rations them to make them last as long as possible. Sugar rationing is necessary.
On the home front, Americans sacrificed so much to win this victory. We will hear now from the results The amazing work from Norman Corwin, written on very short notice and performed by Orson Welles. 14 August, as it was broadcast August 14th, 1945, 79 years ago.
This day is the father of great anniversaries. Men and saints shall picnic together on 14 August, down more years than you or I shall see. So say it tonight with saluting guns. Say it with roses. Say it with a hand clasp, a drink, a prayer. Say it any way you want, but say it! Say it!
The Columbia Broadcasting System presents 14 August, a message for the Day of Victory by Norman Corwin, spoken by Orson Welles.
Congratulations for being alive and listening on this night. Millions didn't make it. They died before their time, and they are gone and gone. For the fascists got them. They are not here, but their acts are here. And they are to be saluted from the lips and from the heart before the conversation swings around to reconversion. Fire a cannon to their everlasting memory. God and uranium were on our side. The wrath of the atom fell like a commandment, and the very planet quivered with implications. Tokyo Rose was hung over from the news next day, and the emperor prayed to himself for succor. So sound the guns for Achilles, the atom, and the war workers, Newton and Galileo, Curie and Einstein, the Archangel Gabriel, and the community of Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Ladies and gentlemen, the peoples have come a long way since we were tadpoles. Much has happened, and the upward path has been strewn with dinosaurs, tigers, Caesars, slave traders, and fascists, in spite of which, as you have heard on the radio tonight, the best in the way of flags is flying over the once mighty lands of the enemy, and free men are being born on schedule. New free men, conceived December last, during a counter-offensive against their elders in the Ardennes, are tonight breathing and kicking and making fists, are heirs to victory. Whereas the saber-toothed tiger is nicely arranged with fish fossils in the museum, and Caesar is twice hacked to pieces by his countrymen, the second time strung up by the heels to cure. The trader in slaves cannot buy back his name from the contempt of the generations, and the Nazi is parted from his pomp and his furor, pending announcement of the hanging day. The Jap, who never lost a war, has lost a world, learning at what cost to us all that crime does not pay. This, too, This, too, is worth a cheer. Tomorrow will be time enough for humility. Tonight, we count our trophies. The scuttled hulk of the proud Graf Spee, a lie from the mouth of Goebbels, nailed to the ground, a carpet chewed by Hitler, later disinfected in the flames of Berchtesgaden, the Luftwaffe in a British junkyard, hand clasps and bear hugs on the Elbe, footprints and gun tracks going from Berlin to Warsaw to Stalingrad to Warsaw to Berlin in 68 months. Bloodiest round trip in history. Pearl Harbor, repaid 1,000 times. August. 14 August to the gun turret and the turret lathe, and both stand still, and their masters stop to wipe away the sweat of winning. 14 August to the tractor in the wheat field, and the farmhand who heard the news from Washington on the local wavelength a few hours back. 14 August to the flag on Suribachi, and to Colin Kelly's boy, and Maya Levin's mother. The bones of the expendables of Corregidor stir imperceptibly on 14 August. 14 August, Chinese time, to the bridge at Mukden where the Japanese crossed over into war some 14 years ago, next month. 14 August, to the blood brothers of Stalingrad, their armies lately a burning wind across the plains of Manchuria. 14 August, to the mending wounds among the hospitals and to the barracks bags and to the bunks and flight decks of the fighting ladies. New homecoming. Now the dog tag exchanged for the name again. They will converge from outlandish zones of time, from secret somewheres known alone to postmasters, from lanes of oceans, and from windy desert camps. The comrades will write letters to each other for a while, and then drop out of touch. The mess halls where the meals were on the house will be forgotten soon enough between Jim's diner and home cooking. Beaches without beachheads. Jobs without sergeants. The men who tilted guns of battleships and stoked them in epic battle will ride the level ferries of bay and river, and tank men will drive a powered lawnmower while their fathers watch. The pilot, with many missions, will do errands for some civilian company, and the bombardier who crushed a city in a blinding instant will help his wife dry dishes in the kitchen sink. But peace is no dull enterprise this time. It will be armed and vigilant, not languid and flabby. The degenerate years of rigged markets, apple selling on the corner and produce plowed under in the bread line are old ghosts, well laid. What God and laboratory have wrought can serve those who have served. The agitated atom would rather build a city than destroy one, and the jet plane carry passengers to mild appointments. 14 August is 14 August to 500 united nations, the greatest of which have fought too well together ever to fall apart. Listeners, on 14 August 1945, size up the latest news bulletins against the morbid yesterdays of Warsaw and Pearl Harbor, fallen Paris, and the Blitz on London. Weigh Potsdam against Munich carefully, removing from the balance the millions who shall walk no more. Sketch in the dates and happenings from textbooks and from memory, and draw your own conclusions. Are we agreed that all is one? That the world's a single continent? That mountains made of faith are not to be moved? That freedom is an endless river, jealous of its tributaries, fertilizing the country through which it flows? Study our time. It will do us good. Effective 15 August. Peace, its care and handling, becomes our homework. Say it tonight, with saluting guns, with champagne, and with laughter. But also remember the fields beyond, and the names and faces beyond. It is worth noting and remembering that here, in this August, the grass is hearty, the sky friendly, the wind in the windsock. Birds are competitive. The hills of home are in their accustomed places, and all is accounted for. All is accounted for except the farmer's boy, and the mill hand who live near the canal, and the young men from the city block where the gutters fry in summer. One lies with an ocean across his chest at the bottom of an Arctic deep. Another sleeps with sand in his eyes, where he fell on a beach at Palau. The bones of the fishermen rest in clay, far from the rocks of Maine, and the miner's kid is under the ground of China. The cricket sings in the summer night, but the soda clerk says nothing. The fawn leaps in the wolf-proof wood, but the jungle roots twine the postman's feet. The turtle is young at 61, but the flyer is dead at 18. Remember them. Oh, when July comes round, and the shimmer of noon excites the locusts, when the pretty girls bounce as they walk in the park, and the moth is in love with a 60-watt bulb, and the tar on the road is blistered. They've given their noons to their country. They've trusted their girls to you. They are face to face with an ally's earth for a bunch of tomorrows. Remember them. Oh, in the fall of the year, when frost airbrushes the withering leaf, and the silo is fat as a bearing woman, and the cleats in the backfield dig up gains to the praise of the stadium, when the number one goose says it's time to go, and the flock points a V to the south. They've given their seed to 48 states, their football tickets to you. The shirt on their back is a worm-cut rag for silks and breads and bomblessness. For kids, unplanned today, who will play ghosts and Tojo every Halloween. Remember them. Oh, in the sleeting months, when the sap stands cold in the veins of the tree, and the bottle of milk on the frozen door stoop raises its cap to the morning. When the skating girls eddy like snow on the rink, and the storm window, hooked on the prairie farmhouse, mutters in the gale out of Idaho. They've spilled their blood for the rights of men, for people the likes of me and you, and they ask that we do not fail them again in the days we are coming to.
You have been listening to 14 August, a message for the day of victory, written, directed, and produced by Norman Corwin, and spoken by Orson Welles. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Now, depending upon whom you listen to, 14 August was written first as a very quick thing after the atomic bomb hit, and would 5 days later be expanded to a 30-minute version, which Orson Welles would do with Olivia de Havilland. There are other people who say that God and Uranium Were on Our Side was recorded first, or written first, and then compressed. And I don't see that as making any sense whatsoever. What I can tell you is I have just, within the last few minutes, gotten a copy of God and Uranium Were on Our Side. And we will have that for you coming up on the 79th anniversary of it airing. August 19th, 1945. That'll be coming up in just a couple of days. So there you go. 14 August, as it was originally broadcast, and you have to admit, it is a compelling work. From 79 years ago, August 14th, 1945, on CBS, moving and dramatic. Now, we are going to, first, before I do anything else, I want to tell you what's coming up tomorrow, and I need to do that. We will have George Raft in a radio role, Rocky Jordan, headlining that program, as that was originally broadcast 73 years ago, August 15th, 1951, Man in the Nile. Also an episode of Suspense starring John Dehner, A Friend to Alexander, an adaptation of the James Thurber story of a very personal reaction to the Hamilton-Burr duel. We'll also have an episode of Counter Spy from Don McLaughlin, Mandel Kramer, one of the few episodes that we have that aired on ABC. This will be from 74 years ago, August 15th, 1950. And an episode of X-1 at the Post from 67 years ago, August 15th, 1957. We'll wrap the whole episode up with another installment of Superman and Dr. Roebling and the Voice Machine. Bud Collyer as Clark Kent, Joan Alexander as Lois Lane. And while I've heard some of Joan's radio work, I know her best for her time on the ABC television program, and I'm a game show nut. You know, in addition to an old radio nut, I'm a game show nut. She was on an ABC show that was helmed by Robert Q. Lewis, and it was called The Name's the Same. Attractive lady and somewhat bright, and we will hear Superman coming up on our Thursday Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We will step away from the VJ Day remembrances and pray for all the people who gave their lives in the pursuit of winning World War II. And we will go to an episode of Mystery in the Air starring Peter Lorre next. The Lodger.
Now attention please, all passenger car owners. The Office of Defense Transportation has asked us to give you this message. This is National Tire Registration Week. To keep our American transportation system safe and working, the government is asking you and me to register all tires of passenger cars during the coming week. This means you register all tires of your passenger car, including the spare and any others you may have, without delay. For to get a new gasoline rationing book, or to keep the one you already have, you must register your tires first. You can get an official registration blank at your local rationing board, your garage, auto club, or at any filling station. Then when you've listed all your tires, file your registration form with your rationing board. Or if you live in the West or Middle West, present it when applying for your gas rationing coupon. Remember, the government ruling is you must register your tires or you cannot get any gas. So act tomorrow to register yours.
We move away from World War II to an episode of Mystery in the Air. It was the summer replacement series replacing Abbott and Costello, who would move after this series to go to ABC. But let's listen to this. Billed as Henry Morgan, but was actually known this today as Harry Morgan, the announcer on this show, August 14th, 1947, 77 years ago today, The Lodger.
Mystery in the Air, starring Peter Lorre, presented by Camel Cigarettes.
All right, men. I guess that's all. Put him on the stretcher and take him to the morgue.
Oh, must I stay, Inspector?
For a while, Mrs. Bunting.
Oh, dear.
I need all the details for my report.
Oh, that such a thing could have happened here. Here in my own house.
Each week at this hour, Peter Lorre brings us the excitement of the great stories of the strange and unusual, of dark and compelling masterpieces culled from the four corners of world literature. Tonight, The Lodger, by Mrs. Belloc Lowndes. Peter Lorre is the Lodger, and Ellen Bunting is played by Miss Agnes Moorehead.
Mystery in the Air, brought to you by Camel Cigarettes. Experience is the best teacher. Try a Camel. Let your own experience tell you why more people are smoking Camels than ever before. Yes, let your T-Zone decide which cigarette you like best. Your T-Zone, that's T for taste and T for throat, is your true proving ground for any cigarette. So try a Camel on your T-Zone. Introduce Camel's rich, full flavor to your taste. Acquaint your throat with Camel's cool mildness. See if you don't decide, like so many other smokers, that Camels suit your T-Zone to a T.
Go on, Mrs. Bunting. You said you were looking for a lodger?
Yes, Inspector, we had to. But I never dreamed such a thing could happen here, to us. Why, it was only last Tuesday night my husband and I were sitting before our fire reading the newspaper about the latest murder. It was the theft by the Avenger. Yes, I remember saying distinctly, Robert, Oh, but this Avenger person, you know, he could be the fellow standing next to you, or maybe the man you bump into. It's a terrible thought.
Yes, but it appears to me that the Avenger's too quick for the police.
And look here. Look here, it says this girl he got last night was like all the others. Pretty blonde, and she'd just come from a music hall. Exactly like all the rest of his victims. Oh, what a pity.
Ellen, have you stopped to think who fits that description perfectly? Our own Daisy.
Oh, shush, what a pretty thought, Bunting. It's a good thing she's with her aunt instead of here. London isn't a safe place for any girl now.
Just the same, I can't help thinking how fine it'd be to have her here with us.
Well, there's no sense even talking about it. We just can't afford it.
I know that, Ellen, but I hope we could manage it some way.
How? Haven't I scrimped myself half crazy trying to keep us going?
I know, Ellen. Well, don't you go worrying about it. I think we can...
Who do you suppose that could be?
Could it be someone looking for a room?
Oh, I wish it were. Then you could have your Daisy back. Well, I went to the front door, and when I opened it, there stood a man wearing a black cape and hat. He carried but a single piece of luggage. Good evening, sir.
I saw your sign. It says you have a room to rent.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please, won't you come in?
Thank you.
Could I take your cape, sir?
No, I'm looking for a quiet room. But it should be very quiet.
Oh, we have that, sir. Just that. Above all, our house is quiet.
Good.
Your bag, sir. May I take it?
No, just show me the room, please.
Oh, yes, sir. It's right up these stairs, sir. This way. You see, sir, there's just my husband and me here, and we're ever so quiet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you'll find this room to your liking. Well, here we are.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think I like this room.
Yes, it is pleasant, isn't it? There's not many rooms with such pretty pictures, now is there?
I don't know. Pretty pictures interest me very little. What I like about this room is it's the simplicity. I like the bareness. Yes, I think I'll take it. What is your name?
Mrs. Bunting, sir.
All right, Mrs. Bunting, I'll take the room.
Oh, yes, sir. And please let me help you with your luggage.
No, don't you touch it.
Oh, but I only wish to help.
I know. You only wish to help, Mrs. Bunting. It's just, forgive me. It's just that I'm weary. I'm very tired. See, I do a lot of studying.
Oh, yes, of course, sir, of course.
Well, anyway, you can see how few things I need. It's just what's in this bag. But this here is my favorite book. It's the Bible. Good book, Mrs. Bunting, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, indeed it is, sir.
Yes, it says, he brings them to their desired haven. Beautiful words, huh? And now at last I found my haven of rest. Now, Mrs. Bunting, if I pay you 30 shillings a week for this room, that's satisfactory?
30? Oh, why, yes, sir. That'll be quite all right.
My name is Sleuth.
Mr. Sleuth?
Yes, Sleuth. Sleuth. Think of a hound, Mrs. Bunting, and you'll never forget my name. And here are your 30 shillings.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Would you be wishing anything now? Supper, tea, or...
No, nothing. Good night, Miss Bunting.
Yes. Good night, sir.
Please stop that. You hear?
Oh, sir, what did I do?
You were humming. That's music.
Oh, but I...
Music is an instrument of sin.
Oh, yes, sir.
And you did tell me, Mrs. Bunting, that your house would be absolutely quiet.
Oh, but it is, sir. I didn't mean any harm. Believe me, sir.
I believe you. I'm sorry I spoke sharply. I know you. You're trying to be considerate and kind.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.
By the way, Mrs. Bunting, I think I would like some bread and some tea.
Oh, certainly, sir. I'll have it in an instant.
So he took the room, eh, Ellen?
Yes.
He took the room at 30 shillings a week.
Yes, in advance. Oh, hurry now, Bunting. Is the water for the tea hot yet?
Yes, what a stroke.
Put the bread and the butter on the tray. I'll pour the water.
You know, Ellen, it's wonderful.
Yes, it is.
Do you realise what this means? We can have Daisy back with us now.
I know. Hurry with it now, hurry.
Why, we can have her back with us
now,
tomorrow.
There's the water and the tea, and I guess... Yes, it's all ready. Open the door, Bunting. I'll take it up to him right away.
There you go, old girl. First thing in the morning, I'm going to fetch Daisy and bring her home. Oh, it's a wonderful night, Ellen. Wonderful.
Oh, I mustn't do that.
And she has cast down many wounded from her. Yes, many strong men have been slain by her. Come in. And to know how the wickedness of folly...
Oh, why, Mr. Sleuth, you...
Yes? What is it?
Those pictures, those pretty girls, you've turned all their faces to the
Yes,
wall.
I've turned them to the wall because they are wicked and sinful.
Oh, but, sir,
Don't you agree, Mrs. Bunting, that everything wicked and sinful should be purged from the earth? Huh?
Yes. Oh, yes, I do.
I'm happy to hear that, Mrs. Bunting. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to leave.
Oh, but, sir, here's your tray.
Good night, Mrs. Bunting.
You know, for a moment I was stiff with fear. I set the tray down. He hadn't so much as noticed the light supper I'd prepared for him and rushed to the window to watch. He came out of our cottage and moved off down the street, his black cape swirling about him. Finally, he was lost in the fog, and I don't know why, but I stared after him for a long, long while. Well, I did the dishes and got ready for bed. I lay there thinking, and it was almost dawn before I had convinced myself that at most he was a trifle odd. And after all, paying 30 shillings, maybe he had a right to his strange ways. It was daylight when I was suddenly awakened by the newsboys shouting in the street.
Horrible murder! Read all about
Murder at King's Cross last night. Avenger strikes again.
Slowly, I realized what the newsboys were shouting.
Horrible murder! Avenger 26 victims!
Oh, no!
Avenger at work again! Another girl falls victim to a knife! Avenger strikes again!
In a few moments, Mr. Peter Lorre will bring us the climax of tonight's Mystery in the Air, when camels present Act 2 of The Lodger.
Any sports champion can tell you how true it is that experience is the best teacher.
Don Whitfield, for one, he's the world's outboard speed champion, you know. It's taking the turns around the marking buoys just right that makes that extra speed. And boy, how Don Whitfield worked out on that problem.
Don Whitfield recently said,
"Experience is the best teacher in outboard racing and in smoking, too. Smoking whatever brands I could get during the wartime cigarette shortage taught me there's no other cigarette like a Camel."
And many other smokers had the same experience. Yes, during the wartime cigarette shortage, when people smoked whatever brands they could get, then's when we all compared cigarettes, whether we wanted to or not. And then's when so many people decided that their tastes liked Camel's rich, full flavor, and their throats liked Camel's cool mildness. The result?
More people are smoking Camels than ever before.
Experience is the best teacher. Try a Camel yourself.
As the inspector takes notes of the terrifying event, Ellen Bunting continues the story.
And now, Mrs. Bunting, What did you do the morning you learned the Avenger had murdered his 6th victim?
Well, I was a little frightened to meet our lodger, yet I kept my thoughts to myself. After all, you know, there still wasn't much to go on. Robert had gone to make Daisy, so Mr. Sleuth ate breakfast alone. I watched him through the crack in the door. Finally, I went in with more tea.
Tea? No. No, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Bunting. I don't care for any more tea, thanks. You're very kind. But I have to go on with my work now, if you'll excuse me.
My fear really changed to pity then. Oh, he seemed so helpless and tired. And he was so considerate. This man couldn't be a murderer. It was all a coincidence. Besides, we just couldn't afford to lose that 30 shillings a week. Well, around 10 in the morning, he left the cottage, and I decided to go upstairs and have a look about his room. I had to find out what he carried in his one piece of luggage. It wasn't a bag. It was more like a case. Yes, a case. A case for a knife. I rushed upstairs, my heart beating wildly at the thought I'd had of the case. No, there wasn't anything in his closet. I went over to the chest of drawers against the wall. Nothing in the top one. In the next one, there was just some socks and some underclothes. The next one was empty. There was only one other place for the small, narrow case. The bottom drawer. And it was locked. I pulled and pulled at it. And then suddenly I heard the front door open downstairs. In a panic, I rushed out of the room and down the hall.
Oh, you're upstairs, Ellen? Look, Ellen, Daisy's here.
Oh, thank heaven.
Oh, Mother, it's so good to see you. It's so good to be home. Why, whatever's the matter?
Yes, you're quite white, Ellen.
Oh, I'm all right. It's just that I wasn't expecting you so soon.
Well, it's good to be back. The country's all right, but there's nothing like London now, is there?
Oh, no. No, there isn't.
Well, as long as that Avenger's about, you're going to have something to do to keep this young lady indoors, London or no London.
Oh, don't you worry. Mother will see to that.
Oh, well, Daisy, I might as well get you settled.
You see, Father? What did I tell you? She'll have a dust cloth in my hand before I have my coat on.
Mr. Sleuth.
Why is my door open?
We were just leaving, sir.
Have you been in my room?
Not at all, sir.
From now on, Mrs. Bunting, I shall keep my room locked.
But you see, sir, I was just tidying up a bit, and Mr. Bunting, he brought our daughter home. She just arrived. This is Daisy.
Pleased to meet you, sir.
She's been away for quite a while. That's why we're a bit excited, you might say.
Yes.
You were probably surprised to hear us laughing and carrying on.
Yes, I must say I was, but then there are different kinds of joy, are there not, Daisy?
Yes, I'm sure there are.
Yes. There is the despicable, evil joy of the abandoned, and then there is the divine happiness of the blessed. That's a great difference. You understand that, Daisy, don't you?
Why, yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Sleuth.
Good. There are so few young women nowadays who do.
Why, Mr. Sleuth, you mean a girl's not to enjoy life at all? Not to have any fun?
Enjoyment and fun, my child, are the devil's breeding ground. All his implements are there. Pleasure and impropriety. The temptation of music, dancing.
Oh, that's crazy. Why, there's nothing I like better than dancing. And I'm not...
You like to dance?
She didn't know what she was saying, Mr. Sleuth. She's just a child. Daisy, you know you've never been one for dancing. You never learned how
But I did learn, Mother. While I was away. What's so wrong about it? What's the harm in dancing?
It says she lies in wait as for a prey and increases the transgressors among men.
I don't know what you mean. I've never heard such nonsense.
Nonsense? You call it scripture nonsense?
Daisy, go into the front room.
It's all right, Mrs. Bunting. It's all right. I'm used to that kind of talk. Good day.
Daisy. Yes. Daisy, listen to me.
What, Mother?
I've got to tell you about...
About what?
Oh, nothing. Nothing. I've got to go out for a while now. I'll be back. For a moment, I was about to tell her my awful suspicions, but I stopped. They were only suspicions. At the same time, I had a thought. I'd go to the coroner's inquest they were having for the Avenger's latest victim. I was hoping to hear something said that would clear my suspicions of the lodger. At least I'd give him this last chance. A lady was testifying as I took my seat. She'd seen the Avenger from her window, she said, and her description of him didn't tally with Mr. Sleuth at all. Oh, I can't tell you how relieved I was. Till it was pointed out she couldn't possibly have seen anyone that night from her window because of the fog. Then the next witness was a Mr. Cannot. I leaned forward anxiously as they swore him in and began asking questions.
You say, Mr. Tennant, you're positive that you saw this man?
Positive, sir. It was only a few moments before the murder that I saw the Avenger.
Describe him.
Well, he wore a black cape, I believe, and was very gaunt-looking, and was carrying a small handbag.
A handbag?
Yes, a small, narrow handbag. Such a one as might contain a knife.
Silence in the court. Proceed, Mr. Tennant.
Well, he had a low, hesitating voice. I'd say with something of a continental accent. An educated man, I'd judge, but quite mad.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, as he emerged from the fog, he was talking aloud to himself. Oh, believe me, sir, he was reciting scriptures from the Bible.
Oh, no, it can't be. It can't be. Oh, could there be any doubt about it now? Mr. Sleuth, our lodger, he was the murderer. I got out of the courtroom as quickly as I could. I didn't even notice it had started to rain. I hardly remember going home, running and walking somehow, while the nightmare of fear and terror grew bigger and bigger inside me. It was 3 streets from our cottage that I saw my husband, Robert. One thought hit me clearly. I realized Daisy must be home alone with the Avenger. Bunting! Bunting!
Why, Ellen, what is it?
Bunting, where's Daisy? Where is she? Where's Daisy?
Why, she's at home.
Oh, listen, Bunting, listen. Sleuth is the Avenger.
What? What are you saying?
Ah, lodger, he's the Avenger. Daisy's alone with him right now. Hurry!
Now listen to me carefully, my child, and rejoice with me in your heart, for the moment is at hand, and you're not afraid, Daisy, are you?
No, I'm not afraid.
You're very beautiful, and you should live in the ways of righteousness. You hear me, Daisy? You want to live in the ways of righteousness, don't you?
Yes, I do.
I know you do. I know, and that is why I've been sent to purge your soul so that you will be elevated beyond all sin and evil. You like to dance, Daisy, don't you? Already 6 have gone on before you, and they are beyond all sin and evil. You are the 7th to be elevated, my child, and my work is almost done for the 7th I've promised at this appointed hour. Be still, Daisy. And don't listen to the temptations of the crowd when they call out your name, because I am here to save you from all evil and wickedness that consumes you like a wildfire of scarlet and crimson. You like to dance, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Look at me, my child. Look at me and don't fear me and do not tremble. Woe to them that call evil good and good evil and put darkness for light and light for darkness. And therefore I must bring you down like the lamb to slaughter. And now I lift my hand with a flaming sword, for now comes the vengeance and the time to rejoice.
Stop it, you killer, Daisy, come here.
Drop that knife, you fiend!
Oh,
Drop that knife!
Oh, you're safe. You're safe. Okay.
Drop that knife, you!
Take away your hands. Let go of me. Get away! Don't you know that such that are for death to death, and such that are for the sword to the sword, and no one dare to have pity on them?
His knife! His knife!
Oh, mercy. Oh, he fell on the knife.
Yes. And it's burning. It's burning in me like a fire. Oh, it purges me and consumes me. All sin and evil are falling away. Praise and glory, for it is I who is the seventh. Yes, the vengeance is fulfilled.
Each week, the makers of Camel cigarettes send free Camels to servicemen's hospitals from coast to coast. This week, the Camels go to Veterans Hospital, Jefferson Barracks, Missouri, U.S. Army Letterman General Hospital, San Francisco, California, U.S. Naval Hospital, Charleston, South Carolina, U.S. Marine Hospital, Ellis Island, New York, Veterans Hospital, Fort Meade, South Dakota.
Yes, everywhere more folks are smoking Camels. Many of those Camel smokers are doctors. You know, 3 leading independent research organizations asked 113,597 doctors, what cigarette do you smoke, doctor? The brand named most was Camel.
According to a nationwide survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette.
Next week, Mystery in the Air, starring Mr. Peter Lorre, brings you one of the world's great stories of the strange and unusual, The Horla by de Maupassant, with a special musical score composed and conducted by Paul Barron.
Hey there, Mr. Pipe Smoker. Do you know that more pipes smoke Prince Albert than any other tobacco? Well, it's true. So why don't you give PA a try? Prince Albert is specially made for smoking pleasure. It's choice tobacco, specially treated to ensure against tongue bite. Crimp cut to burn slow, smoke cool. See if the extra rich, full flavor of Prince Albert doesn't give you added interest in your pipe. Be sure to listen to Prince Albert's Grand Ole Opry Saturday night for a half hour of folk music and laughter with Red Foley, Minnie Pearl, Rod Brassfield, and the rest of the Opry gang. And as Red's special guest this week, you'll hear Salty Holmes. Remember, Prince Albert's Grand Ole Opry, Saturday night, over NBC.
Listen again next week at this same time when the makers of Camel cigarettes present Mr. Peter Lorre in Mystery in the Air. Next week's play will be The Horla by de Maupassant. The artists supporting Mr. Lorre tonight were Agnes Moorehead as Ellen, Henry Morgan as the voice of mystery, Barbara Eiler as Daisy, Eric Snowden as Bunting, Raymond Lawrence as the inspector, Rolf Sedan as the witness, and Conrad Binion as the newsboy. And on behalf of Mr. Lorre and the entire cast, our sincere thanks to Agnes Moorehead for her great portrayal of Ellen Bunting. This is Michael Roy in Hollywood wishing you all a pleasant good night for Camel.
This is NBC, the national broadcasting company.
Yes, he was very much over the top, but I have to tell you, his work was amazing in radio, maybe even more so than movies. From 77 years ago, August 14th, 1947, Mystery in the Air, starring Peter Lorre. Boy, wouldn't you have loved to have heard that sort of stuff? More than just the 7 or 8 episodes that we have. Tomorrow, Rocky Jordan, starring George Raft. Suspense, Fred Alexander, starring John Dehner. We'll also have an episode of Counter Spy, X-1, and Superman. But coming up next, our last show for this episode, John Dehner is Paladin in Have Gun Will Travel.
Pennsylvania Special Track 10, Pittsburgh, Akron, Cleveland, Chicago, and all points west. Aboard! Pennsylvania.
Well, Mary, I got the last 2 seats on the 545. Now we can visit your brother over the holidays.
You got a match, mister?
Sure, soldier. Say, you look blue.
I am blue. My buddy and I got Christmas furloughs. Last chance to get home for a long time, and now there's no room on the train.
Well, what train are you going to take?
545.
Look, come over to the ticket window. I've got 2 seats on that train, and they're yours. I'm not the man who keeps a soldier from getting home this Christmas.
Listen, America. Trains and buses are swamped with servicemen and supplies. Is your trip necessary? Be an American. Stay home yourself and help our soldiers and sailors get home for Christmas.
Yes, I know we end the podcast with a little quarter-hour show. I didn't do that today because I wasn't sure about timing. Didn't think I would have time to do it. And now I know we would have. But I hope you'll accept my apologies, because we did do 14 August, which is a quarter hour. By the way, coming up, let me spend just a moment before we get to Have Gun Will Travel and tell you what else is coming up this week. We told you tomorrow it's Rocky Jordan, Suspense, Counter Spy, X-1, and Superman. Coming up on the Friday show, we'll have Confession, which some of you seem to have actually taken to. Also, Gangbusters, an episode of Quiet Please. A delightful episode, presto changeo, I'm sure. An episode of Dimension X, The Vital Factor, and Claudia. And we'll have 2 episodes of Claudia, Friday and Saturday. And we'll have the Rudy Valley Hour from 1933 with guests Dorothy Gish and Dino Nardi. We'll also have a CBS radio workshop production from 1956, The Jack Parr Show, starring Jack Parr and Jack Benny. And that's Thursday, that's Friday, that's Saturday. And then we'll have an episode of Escape on Sunday, The Snake Doctor. That'll be Jack Webb as in Dragnet, 16 Jewel Thieves from the very first season of Dragnet. In fact, this is only the 11th episode you'll hear. Another episode of Counter Spy, The Mysterious Traveler. And let me count here, because I did this without planning. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and on Monday next, we will have that expanded episode of 14 August. God and Uranium were on our side. That'll be coming up on Monday. Now we close up this episode with an episode of Have Gun Will Travel starring John Dehner. And this episode originally broadcast on this date. This would have been August 14th, 1960, and that was 64 years ago today.
The revolution is over, but it's still a long way from here to the mission. If we're going to get the organ back in time, we'd better get started.
Have Gun Will Travel. Starring Mr. John Dehner as Paladin. San Francisco, 1875. The Carlton Hotel, headquarters of the man called Paladin.
Oh, Mr. Wong, wait.
Hey, boy, Miss Wong, very busy today. Big party in hotel last night makes so much work.
But Mr. Wong, look, a letter from Mr. Paladin.
Oh, Mr. Paladin, work can wait. You read letter, hey, boy.
Oh, no. Up here it say, San Xavier Mission. Then it say, Dear Missy Wong and Hey Boy.
Oh, it's Missy Wong and Hey Boy, you and me.
After I finished my business in Laredo, I came here to San Xavier Mission to see my friend Father O'Toole.
Oh.
Had hoped to be able to lie in the hammock in lovely garden here and get good rest, but I am afraid won't be time for that, as I have offered to do errand for the good Father. However, I plan to be back in San Francisco in time for the opera ball.
But hey, boy, opera ball last night.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
Oh, look, me here, Missy Wong. See his date? Mr. Paladin write this letter a long time ago. Take long time to get here. Hey, what happened you suppose he don't get home?
Oh, poor Mr. Paladin.
Missy Wong. Oh, Mr. Paladin don't mind missing opera ball. He go to lots of parties.
Oh, Missy Wong mean poor Mr. Paladin. He never have time to rest in hammock.
That's a warning signal for all drivers. And that can be a warning signal for drowsy drivers on long, monotonous trips. You see, driving can make you drowsy no matter how much sleep you get, and driving and dozing just don't mix. Why take chances? Take no-doze, stay-awake tablets. Millions of times a year, safe no-doze keeps drivers awake and alert, helps you bounce back so that you feel sharp, ready for any emergency. How does no-doze do it? Ask your doctor. He'll tell you that no-doze contains a safe and accurate amount of caffeine, the same refreshing stimulant you get in your coffee or tea. But safe no-doze acts faster, is handier and more reliable. Best of all, it is not habit-forming. And no-doze is so safe, it is legally sold on a national basis without a prescription. Get no-doze, stay-awake tablets to help you stay awake and alert. It could save your life.
I had made the offer to Father O'Toole to see that an organ, a gift to his church, was delivered from the Gulf of Mexico to his San Xavier mission. I was accompanied by Tono, a fine young Indian who had been reared in the mission. The wagon road we had to follow led us through the war zone of a revolution that was in progress. But Father O'Toole was well known and well loved, and I was sure that an explanation of our trip would grant us safe conduct. I didn't know, of course, that confusion at the customs house loading docks would result in a switching of crates, so that instead of the organ, we were hauling rifles intended for the government militia. Things were looking pretty grim for a while after we were halted by the People's Army and sentenced to be shot for aiding the enemy. But with some quick thinking, fast talking, and decisive action, it seemed that now we had the situation well in hand.
¡Viva la revolución!
It looks like we have just won a revolution.
Yes, Tono. I guess it's all over but the shouting, but we better get Pancho and move out of here fast before somebody decides it's time for another uprising.
Here comes General Perez.
Ah, senor.
Well, General.
Senor, you are the hero of the day.
Oh, no, it was nothing, General, just a simple matter of cutting down the odds. The militia was well armed, and your boys weren't. That makes it a little difficult to win a war.
See, but what is this miracle you performed for my poor little army, that rifles of the militia fire backwards?
Oh, well, Tono and I rammed the barrels of their rifles with adobe mud.
Ah, tal estrategia.
I beg your pardon?
Such superb military strategy.
We were lucky that the soldiers of the militia sleep so soundly during their siesta.
It is a moment of glory for the revoltosos, the army of the people. You, senor, and your compañero will please to join in celebration of victory.
Oh, well, thank you, General, but we don't have time. When you and your men stopped our wagon and I told you I was hauling an organ to San Xavier Mission, well, I was telling you the truth.
But the organ was delivered here to the militia.
It is here now?
Yes. Oh, yes, we found it all right. It's in that little stone jail over there.
What is organ doing in jail?
Well, the cell is jointly occupied by the organ and the man who delivered it. I believe he was scheduled to meet the firing squad. The militia didn't take kindly to uncrating an organ when it expected rifles.
Por supuesto, of course. I shall say that the organo is released to you, senor.
Oh, General, I'd like to have the prisoner, too, if you don't mind.
You want this prisoner?
I'm afraid so. His name is Pancho. I had a little run-in with him at Matamoros. I don't think I trust him any further than I can throw that organ, but he can play it, and we may need him.
This becomes confusing, senor.
You see, General, Father O'Toole is counting on having this organ for Mass when the bishop visits San Xavier, but no one in the parish knows how to play it.
And just before the battle, we were hiding back at the jail there, and we heard Pancho play. Very well, too, so I figure if it's all right with you, we'll just deliver him along with the organ.
Just as you like, senor. We are in your debt.
Senor Paladin, these are fine horses the General took from the militia and gave to you.
Yes, Pancho. With the time we've lost, we'd never make it with that ox team we started with.
We are lucky. Horses are hard to come by in this part of the country.
Beautiful animals, beautiful people, beautiful world. Pancho's glad to be alive and not dead from the firing squad. This is a lucky day.
But why were you delivering arms to the militia, Pancho? Were you on their side?
Pancho is only on the side of Pancho. I deliver arms to the militia because the militia can pay. Make business importante. That's all.
Well, just don't you forget our business importante. Huh?
Oh, no, senor. For my life, I play organo for the Mass at the Mission of San Javier.
We will be reaching the town of Roma pretty soon.
I know. I think we better stop there for the night. I don't like to take the time, but the horses need the rest.
Roma, I know this town. I think maybe because this is a lucky day for Pancho, I'll sit for a short time at a game of chance.
You don't press your luck too far, Pancho. Clerk. Hey, clerk. Clerk.
Mr. Paladin! Mr. Paladin!
I'll be with you in a moment, Tono, as soon as I settle up for the hotel.
No, come quick.
Well, what is it?
Our organ crate is sitting out there in front of the hotel.
Well, it can't be. It's on the wagon down at the livery.
No, it's out there on the boardwalk, and a man is driving off with our horses and wagon.
What? Oh, no.
Yes. You see? There he is down the street.
Hey, stop you! Hey, you!
Oh!
Stop there!
Well, now, what's your trouble, friend?
Mister, horse stealing's a pretty serious matter.
Well, now, don't that beat all?
Climb down off that wagon.
Say, what's eating you?
This happens to be my team and wagon you're driving.
Oh, no, it ain't. It's mine.
How do you figure?
It's mine on account of 4 of a kind beat us straight.
What are you talking about?
I win this outfit fair and square in a poker game last night.
I'm afraid that's a lie. This is my outfit.
Now, looky here, mister.
You climbed down off that wagon.
I'm just gonna do that, and you're gonna be sorry. Steve Perkins don't take lightly to being called a liar and a horse thief. Now!
Mr. Paladin!
That's for the liar.
You?
Yeah, looks like I gotta whomp you again.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Ooh, that was some punch.
Yeah. Looks like he's out for a while.
Mr. Paladin, that's the man who was playing cards with Pancho last night.
Pancho? Of course. Oh, I should have thought of that. Where is Pancho?
I couldn't find him this morning. He didn't sleep in his room last night.
I guess he figured his luck ran out and he'd better run out, too. I'm afraid I owe this man an apology. Well, Tono, we haven't time to argue the fine points of this thing.
Why? What are we going to do?
Get some rope out of the wagon there.
Rope?
Yes, we're going to tie this fellow up, shove a gag in his mouth, and then load him and the organ in the wagon and get on our way.
Why do we take him?
Well, it's his outfit. He win it fair and square, as he said. But I'm afraid we're going to have to borrow it, whether he likes it or not.
Well, at least Pancho didn't gamble the organ.
He's probably saving it for the next hand.
But now we're back where we were. Nobody to play for Mass.
Yeah. No, we'll worry about that later.
There he is again.
I guess I better untie him. I hope he decides to be reasonable about this.
I wouldn't count on it.
No. I'm afraid he has a point. Ooh, no. Ooh. Say, Perkins, look, Perkins, I'm sorry we had to shanghai you like this, but we needed the wagon, and there wasn't time to argue, you see. Now, whether Pancho had a right to bet it or not, I guess it's yours. We'll pay you for this trip, but we have to get to San Xavier Mission. Climb on back there, Tono, and take the gag off him.
Sure. Here, sir. Just let me untie you here. There.
You...
Don't say it, or you'll stay tied up.
All right. You win. Now, let me tell you, the only reason Steve Perkins is standing still for this kind of shoving around is... Yeah, because I was headed toward the mission anyway.
You were?
Yeah, they got one of them fiesta things going on in town there. Usually some pretty good betting money floating around at them celebrations.
Are you a professional gambler?
Oh, I wouldn't say that exactly, but I managed to pick up a little change here and there. When I win these horses, I figure to take them to the fiesta and race them.
Our horses?
My horses, and don't forget it. Mister, you don't know horse flesh. They ain't hauling horses, they're running horses.
It doesn't matter. If they'll just get this organ to San Xavier, I'll be satisfied. Untie him, Tono. Almost there, Tono.
Yes, it's been quite a trip.
What's so special about this here organ?
It was a gift to the mission. Father O'Toole is very anxious to have it when the bishop visits San Xavier.
He'll have it, it seems, but there is no one to play it.
Hey, Tono.
Yes?
You Injun, ain't you?
Yes.
Well, how come you don't dress like an Injun or talk like an Injun?
I was raised at the mission and went to American schools.
Oh, I see. Well, now, hey, looky over there. Figure that's some of your kinfolk?
A band of Indians on horseback.
They are Navajo. That is my tribe.
Well, how do you like that? Look, they got a rope around that feller's neck. They're leading him behind their horses.
Hey, that looks like Pancho. Whoa.
Mr. Paladin, it is Pancho.
Well, say it. That's the feller I played poker with.
What kind of business importante do you suppose he tried this time, Tono?
I don't know, but he can play the organ.
Oh, yes, he can. Well, I suppose we better go see what we can do for him. Come on now. Get on now. Here.
And now, here are Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy.
Bergie, I think someone's looking for you. Oh, Mr. Bergen.
Well, hello, Effie Clinker. What's wrong?
My car battery is run down. I think it's in acid condition.
Oh, I see. Well, have you seen a serviceman?
Well, I had a blind date with a sailor last night, but he got away.
No, I mean a mechanic. Seeing you own a General Motors car, you should see your GM dealer for service. His mechanics are GM trained. They have specialized tools and factory-approved parts to provide your fine GM car with the GM care it deserves. So if you own a Chevrolet car or truck, a Pontiac, an Oldsmobile, Buick, Cadillac, or a GMC truck, you should make a date with a General Motors serviceman.
Oh, that sounds exciting. Will he have blue eyes?
What's the story, Tono? What'd the Indians say?
Well, as near as I can tell, Pancho wandered into the Indian camp this morning and offered to trade some cattle for a horse.
Cattle?
Yes. But it turned out the cattle he traded already belonged to the Indians. It was some stock they had turned out to graze.
Say, he's some slick feller, ain't he?
Never quite slick enough. Well, what now, Tono? What are they going to do with him?
This is a small band of Navajo. They have set up a camp just beyond the missions. They want no trouble.
Yeah?
They are willing to release Pancho, but they insist he must walk to the mission that way, with the rope around his neck, following the horses.
How far is the mission from here?
12 miles.
Seems a little cruel.
Maybe not. Give that old boy some time to figure a couple of new angles.
Yeah, you could be right, Perkins. Oh, it's good to be back in your lovely garden, Father.
And it's good to have you, lad. Bless you for the happiness you brought me.
I'm afraid the trip took longer than we planned. I hope you didn't worry, Father.
Not at all, Tono, my son. I had my faith, and you had my prayers.
They came in handy a couple of times, Father.
Will you have more lemonade, Mr. Perkins?
Well, no thanks, Father. I got a little business to take care of.
Business?
Yeah, you see, I got to set me up a little race meet. Get out a few bets.
Oh.
Yeah, and I got to move fast. Now, this here fiesta is going to be over Saturday night, so I got to get going to promote this race meet for Sunday morning.
Sunday? But that's the day the bishop will be here.
Well, doggone, Father, I don't aim to interfere with your business.
Oh, now, don't give it another thought, son. It'll work out. Well, if you must go, I'll walk out with you.
Well, thank you, Father.
But please now, come again.
Well, sure, I'd be right proud to, Father. So long, fellas.
See you later, Perkins. Well, Tono, we had a few bad moments, but it was worth it, wasn't it, to see Father O'Toole so happy? Say, you know what I'm going to do right now? I am going to get in that hammock, and I am going to stay there.
No, wait. It is not time to relax yet.
What do you mean?
I know Father O'Toole's flock. If Perkins sets up this race meet, the pews will be empty Sunday.
Yeah. That's no way to impress the bishop. Maybe I ought to talk to Perkins.
No, I think there is another way. Come on.
Oh, where?
We will have to take a little trip.
Oh, no.
Yes, out to the Navajo camp.
Well, why?
Mr. Paladin, it hasn't rained here in a long time. You know the dust is about a foot deep.
Well, what's that got to do with it?
If it should rain, the mud would be so deep, no horse could run.
But it never rains this time of year out here.
When I was talking to the Navajos today, I learned that in their camp is a man I remember from my childhood. A wonderful old medicine man. I recall that his rain chants worked miracles.
Ah, I see.
We must impress the bishop.
Of course.
Look, Mr. Paladin.
Yeah, it's Pancho.
Hola, señores.
Hey, Pancho. Where'd you get that horse?
Pancho make a little business importante. Oh, beautiful world. Pancho's got to be alive, and now Pancho come to play organo for the mass at San Javier Mission.
I think we can start now. Most of the crowd seems to be out.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, Tono, I'd say the bishop's mass was quite a success.
It certainly was. Look at Father O'Toole at the door, beaming at his flock as they file out.
The mysterious ways of God performing his miracles. Eh, Tono?
Yes.
Encantado, Padre.
Bless you, my child.
Father?
Ah, Tono and Paladin, God bless you, my sons.
Thank you, Father. It was a wonderful day, wasn't it?
Oh, my... That is a day I'll remember all my life.
Say, the bishop was impressed, wasn't he?
Oh, indeed he was. But how strange it should rain today.
Hey, boy.
Oh, Mr. Paladin. Oh, my. This is fine. You home again at last. Here, let Hey Boy take back.
Thank you, hey, boy.
This was a successful trip?
Yes, it was.
Oh, seemed too bad you missed party. Big opera ball.
No, hey, boy, that wasn't important at all, since I was able to help to make a very good man very happy.
Oh. Hey, Mr. Paladin, Missy Wong pretty upset about you.
Oh, why?
I don't know. Women kind of funny. Your hey boy don't understand women very good.
I know, hey, boy, I know.
Oh, there Missy Wong now. Missy Wong, look here.
Oh, Mr. Paladin, welcome home.
Thank you, Miss Wong. It's good to be home.
Mr. Paladin, did you ever have time to lie in hammock, have good rest?
No, I didn't, Miss Wong.
Oh.
When I finally had the time, it was raining.
Oh, too bad. Mr. Wong afraid of that. So Missy Wong have nice surprise.
Surprise?
Surprise, yes. Here, let me open door to room. All nice and clean, ready for you. See?
Oh, Miss Wong. A hammock.
Yes, hammock.
Well, that is a very nice surprise.
Next time you refresh, enjoy a frosty, ice-cold Pepsi-Cola.
Sociability, Charlie.
All right, Kay, how's this? Pepsi is light, refreshes without filling. You like to refresh? Have a Pepsi right now.
Well, offer it to everybody, Charlie.
I will. Enjoy Pepsi at the fountain. It's delicious at home, too. Have one at lunch or with a snack.
Charlie.
At the beach or at dinner. Wherever you go, wherever you're thirsty, Pepsi is there.
It's here, too, in our Be Sociable song.
Be sociable, look smart, keep up to date with Pepsi. Drink light, refreshing Pepsi. Stay young and fair and debonair. Be sociable, have a Pepsi.
For the weekend, have plenty of Pepsi around. Pick up an extra carton today. CK, I'm sociable.
With Pepsi, everyone is.
Have Gun, Will Travel. Created by Herb Meadow and Sam Rolfe, is produced and directed in Hollywood by Frank Paris and stars John Dehner as Paladin, with Ben Wright as Hey Boy and Virginia Gregg as Miss Wong. Tonight's story was specially written for Have Gun, Will Travel by Ann Dowd. Featured in the cast were Don Diamond, Harry Bartell, Russell Arms, and Bill Idelson. This is Hugh Douglas, inviting you to join us again next week when CBS Radio presents Have Gun, Will Travel.
And there you have it, August 14th, 1960, Have Gun Will Travel, here on Classic Radio Theater. with Wyatt Cox. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day on this special 79th anniversary of the victory of the United States in World War II. And we'll, as I have promised you, I've got the copy right here. God and uranium were on our side. You will hear, for the first time on Classic Radio Theater, that expanded version of the Orson Welles and Norman Corwin classic. And it is Norman Corwin along with Olivia de Havilland. So it will be a delight. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day, of your Wednesday, and we will see you tomorrow with another podcast here on Classic Radio Theater. I'm Wyatt Cox.